Hello and good afternoon, and welcome back to those of you who have been before. For those of you who haven't been before, my name is Sam, and I'm sharing a few things that I do in my life as a woman in her mid-years, and with the aim to live a long, healthy life. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a nutritional therapist, so it's very much sort of nutrition led really, but I do like lifestyle factors. And today I'm at the stage where I need to remix some more oil for my face. And I spoke about cleaning materials a few weeks ago, and how I'm very conscious of the chemicals I use around the home. I want to make sure that what I use is good for my health as well as good for cleaning the house, and also is good for the dogs as well. And it's no different really for my face care. And for many years I've been using as many sort of natural products as I possibly can. Now, I started off when I was very young using baby lotion, thinking that was one of the best things to use. It turns out it wasn't. I hadn't realised then how many sort of chemicals are used in baby care and child care products. It's rather high and it's rather concerning. So I've used different things over the years, and at the moment I like to blend my own essential oils, but I also buy some natural products. So I go for organic and natural where possible, and avoid these sort of major chemical-based products. So it's the same sort of chemicals that you can find in cleaning products like parabens and phthalates and other things, you know, that may have been banned many years ago are still in our environment, so we're still exposed to them, unfortunately. But the main issue, particularly for women in our mid-years, is that a lot of these nasty chemicals can cause endocrine disruption, which is our hormones, and we don't need any more disruption there. Also, for those younger people, men and women, it can be very much disruptive to their ability to be fertile. So we're seeing a lot lower levels of fertility, particularly in men as well as women. And then there's defects, birth defects that are being experienced as well. So if we can avoid as many of these chemicals that are in our world, it's all to the good, because we're finding they are in our air, they're in our water, they're in the environment. Even though they're banned, as I say, they can still be there for years and years and years. But what we put in our homes, what we put in our bodies, what we put on our bodies, we have more control over. And so that's why I like to blend my own, and I've made my own deodorant, my own body lotions. I haven't made shampoo, but I do like to use some essential oil in the conditioner. I've got here some of the things I've done, body scrubs before, and bath salts. That's so easy. The deodorant, actually, that I now buy some, but I'll probably start making it again, was incredibly good. I really didn't think it was going to give me the protection I really felt I needed, but it was really good. And that surprised me. I thought it would be half-hearted, but it worked as well as anything I've ever used. But it's deodorant, not antiperspirant. We do need to sweat. So today what I want to share with you is just the basic facial oil that I blend. So I'm not making anything, I'm not steeping any plants in carrier oils, which I would like to do at some point, but this is quite quick and easy. So I have my little bottle. Now, a lot of the bottles I use, I've bought a product before and I recycle the bottles, so I wash them and sterilize them, etc. And I've got a little pipette in this one. So, and the oils I like to use are essential oils. I use doTERRA. I've mentioned doTERRA before because the quality is particularly good, and the care and attention to making sure that they are not contaminated. If they find any contaminants, and I can't remember how many times they test them, I think it's 4 times. So every batch is tested. If there's anything found, they don't put it on the market, and there can be a shortage of a certain oil. And although that can be annoying, it's also pleasing to know that they have taken that care. So I like to use frankincense, particularly good for skincare. Helichrysum, also known for its skincare properties. Lavender, very soothing and gentle, fabulous for sort of burns. I've used it on burns before, and I've used it actually. I've got I had an accident. What's it, about 4 or 5 years ago. I trod on a rake in the garden, you know, the classic comedy of standing on the rake and it comes flying up and hits you in the face. I did that, and it came across my nose and across my cheek and split the skin open. And at the time I thought I'd lost my eye. My eye, I think the pressure had just pushed my eye back, and I really thought that the liquid I was feeling was my eye having burst, but fortunately it wasn't. It was the skin having broken and blood just coming away, flowing quite freely. So I had to go into the hospital, and they super glued me back together and put some of those little plasters on as well. And the guy who did it said he had to, because the skin's so fine there, he had to put overlap the skin over itself. And he said to me, "You will have a scar. I'm sorry, but you know, there's no way around it." And I thought, well, fine, you know, that's fine. And I came home and I started using essential oils on it straight away. And I have to say, there is a scar there, but it's so fine. You know, it's not really noticeable. I don't. My eyesight's not so good now, obviously. I don't see it. I can see it if I'm particularly stressed and tired, and sometimes if I catch some, you know, if I do catch the sun, it's more prominent then. But otherwise, it's not noticeable. And I put it down to the use of essential oils. So, what I'm going to do is. This is not scientific, by the way. This is just what I do, and I'm pretty sure I probably use too much in the way of essential oils, but my skin has been really good since I've been using this. As I mentioned before, when I changed my diet, my skin improved. I like using this. So I'm going to use 10 drops of frankincense in my bottle, so it's just as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And got one extra there. I'm not precious about it being 1 over or 1 under. And geranium, now the scent of this is stunning, but geranium is really good for the skin as well. And there's different things that I can't remember all the details now. It's been a while since I've been doing this, so I can't remember the detail. But there's anti-inflammatory effects, there's reparative effects. Some things apparently reduce fine lines. It's always difficult to know whether that's true or not from personal experience, because you don't know how you would look if you hadn't used it, if you know what I mean. But I find my skin feels lovely after this. What's interesting as well, the oils are all quite different in the thickness of the oil. So some flow really quickly and others don't. And then the rest, I'm just going to use 6 drops. So lavender. And I do, if I burn myself, I get the lavender straight away. And because I know this is a good quality one, I put it on neat. But generally, you shouldn't put oils on neat. They should be diluted with a carrier oil. Now, helichrysum, it's quite a pungent smell, but it's supposed to be one of the best ones for skin. And it's been stubborn. And some of these oils are quite, I don't want to call them expensive particularly, because you use so little. I find I ought to actually calculate what the cost is for my bottle, but helichrysum is a higher priced oil. Frankincense is, to get the quality you you do pay to get the good quality. Roman chamomile, again, the small bottles, there's not much in there, I don't think. Might just manage to squeeze it out. Yeah, the smaller bottles are smaller because it's, I'm going to flip that out. Now, Roman chamomile does smell lovely. Really, it's quite perfumed. Let's see if I can do this. There's not much in here, so oops. And we go for every little drop in what's 6. And there we go. I'll probably get a bit more out of that at some point, but I'll leave that there. And then my final oil I'm going to use, I've used myrrh previously, again good for the skin, but it's very, very thick. And clogs very easily, I find. Now, I've used blue tansy, another one that's good for the skin, and it has a blue colour to it. And I've used copaiba, which has got properties that deal with so many systems in the body, but also good for the skin. And I've been using this quite a lot for the last couple of years, probably. It's from a tree in South America, and each tree is looked after by a family who've been living there all their lives, so an indigenous family, and they pass the tree down, or the trees that they look after, from generally father to son, and they go and get the resin from the tree probably every 6 months. So the tree is looked after. And yeah, respected really, and I think it's a really nice way to go about things. So it's a good oil. Right, so that's all of my essential oils in, and then I've got some coconut oil, which, you know, some people don't like coconut oil for the skin. They think it can block the pores. I've been okay with coconut oil. My pores aren't particularly large, so it's been fine. And actually, I was trying to find out more. I use organic sunflower oil because it's cost effective, and I keep it in the fridge because I don't want it to go rancid. That's really important. Oils can go rancid, and there's no discernible smell, so we're still fine with that. And I was checking this out just recently because I'd listened to a podcast about omega-6, which is this sunflower oil is rich in omega-6 essential fatty acids. But as a food source, the seed oils are not ideal. And I wanted to know whether I was getting positive or negative effects from using a sunflower seed oil topically, as opposed to, because I don't use it internally, I stay away from those seed oils for internal use, but I do use it topically, and I wondered whether I was actually doing any harm that way. Well, it doesn't appear that I would be, with the science I've been looking at. Some of it's quite old, mind you, but it would appear that the omega-6 and 3 are protective, and particularly for barrier function. The omega-6 that's in the sunflower, the linoleic acid, is protective, barrier protective. And now let's see, I made a little note. What else did I find? It enhances the skin barrier, recovery, and structural integrity. And it helps prevent water loss. And I have to admit, although I was concerned about potential damage, I felt that this is working for me. And once I've been for a walk with the dogs, I often apply an extra amount when I get back, because I find my skin's quite dry. And you're out in the elements, the wind, the rain, the sun, and I find this really helps just make my skin feel malleable and soft. So it does seem to be okay to use topically, and there's plenty of other really good topical oils. As I say, I did this for the cost efficiency of it more than anything, and it's, as I say, this one's actually from Clear Spring. Not sponsored. This is not an ad for anybody. I need to put these up here. I'm getting oil on my table. That is one thing you need to watch out for. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be terribly successful. I've got a little pump. I thought it would be easier than trying to squeeze it in, which is what I normally do. So actually, let's get, got a little cloth here. So then all I do is go half and half with coconut oil. And the sunflower oil. Just need a bit of a steady hand. Then the other trick is, or a bit of advice is, don't overfill it, because once you put the pipette in, it can displace the oil and you can get a bit of an overflow. And it's also then good to give it a bit of a shake to try and mix it all up. And then I just pump it with the pipette. Just a few drops, and then it does tend to make my face quite pink when I first put it on. And I don't know whether it's just me rubbing that's pulling the blood to the surface, or whether it's the oils themselves, which could well be doing that. But yeah, and it smells good. So what I try to do is, I do use some professionally produced products as well, and I'll probably go through that another day, but I do try and avoid those with these really particularly damaging chemicals, because we do absorb a lot through our skin. But having produced this for a number of years now, I'm not sure how many years, it's been a long time, I've been incredibly happy with the results. And would recommend having a bit of fun. Actually, I've picked up my little book I have. A friend gave this to me. I think this was probably from the garden centre, and it's called The Garden Apothecary by Christine Iverson. And I have made some of these. I went to our community garden. I used to volunteer there, and we had an event, I think it was last summer, and we made some of the products in here. So it's all sort of herbs and plants, and how you can use them for your health. And we did the Queen of Hungary's facial mist that's in here. And I'd read about this years ago. I used to read some Regency romance novels which were historically correct, and they used to use Hungary water in those and spritz their face. And it says here, Queen Elizabeth of Hungary in 1305 to 1380 was famed for her beauty and incredibly youthful complexion. Legend has it that at the grand old age of 70, she looked so young that the 25-year-old Grand Duke of Lithuania asked for her hand in marriage. And the recipe may have been created for her by an alchemist or a monk or a band of travelling Romanies. No one really knows. But it's dried herbs like rosemary, there's rose petals, calendula, mint, lemon peel, sage, chamomile, apple cider vinegar, distilled witch hazel, and then lavender or rose essential oil as well. So we made that last year, and it was rather nice, quite refreshing. But there's lots of lovely little recipes in there. So yes, one thing I wanted to talk about as well is sun protection. I hear a lot of influencers saying you must wear sunscreen, and I don't entirely agree. I do agree to a point, but the type of sunscreen is really important, because a lot of sunscreens also contain what can be harmful chemicals. And I've also read that the difference between having factor 30 compared to 50 is minimal. It's only something like 1 or 2% extra protection, because it's on that sort of curve that you get, where you get to the maximum, and extra more is not necessarily better. So factor 30 does seem to be good for most people, or the right sort of level for most people, I would say, for good protection. But we also need to have sunshine on our skin so we can produce vitamin D and other things. You know, we are part of this planet, and sunlight's important for all of the plants and animals and for us. But I do think it's important to wear things like sun hats, protect the eyes as well, and cover up and avoid the midday sun. You know, all these simple things of getting out and getting your sunshine early in the day, and protecting yourself, but using UV filters. You can buy, actually, you can buy clothing that has the filters. Let me see, I made some notes on this as well. Who was it? There's one called Solbari. Crag hoppers do it as well. You see crag hoppers, their goods are often in outdoor shops and garden centres. Cooley-Bar, and then Uniqlo as well. Apparently Uniqlo do a UV filter fabric. It does tend to be polyester. I'm not keen on polyester, but it is this reflective compound they put in it. And their little, I watched their little video. There's no voiceover, and it shows the difference between cotton and their protective fabric, and it is over several hours. You can see the difference in its ability. So oxybenzone is the most common UV filter used in sunscreen, and it's possibly, it says in the details, an endocrine disruptor. So it's something to be, you know, aware of. And even sunscreens using organic or inorganic UV filters may contain some harmful chemicals. So it's not a straightforward job finding a good sunscreen, and it's something I am going to look into. So once I've looked into good sunscreens that are going to do us more good than harm, and that's often the balance. Sometimes there is no perfect choice, but it's, you know, what's going to be the best one for me in the situation I'm in. Is the downside more of a problem potentially for me than the upside, or is it vice versa? And that's a choice that we all have to make, I think, for ourselves on an individual basis, and not just think just because so and so uses this, that's going to be right for me. It may be that your exposure or your skin type or whatever the difference may be, whether it's for skin or for your stomach, your gut health, or whatever it might be, we are all different, and it's weighing up pros and cons for you and knowing yourself. And I think, as I say, with my facial oil, these are the oils I've chosen to put in my blend. They may not be the ones for you, but I wanted to share that I actually do my own little blend. And there's a reason why I chose all of these way back, and I can't remember all the details now. It's too long. It's too long ago. I've sorted it and I've dismissed it from my mind. And I have a tendency to do that. I'm not like some of these people who remember every single detail. I know I looked into it. I like what I'm using. It works for me. And I would encourage others to have a bit of fun trying a few homemade items. And I've used, as I say, I've used quite a lot of coconut oil over the years. When I've run out of a body lotion, for instance, and I'm using coconut oil again at the moment. I find it as good as anything when it comes to, you know, moisturising my body. I am going to do a little blend with that shortly. because in the summer months it does go very liquid when it's very warm, and I want to have a softer consistency that's a bit more consistent throughout the seasons. So I'm going to try shea butter with coconut oil. I'm going to try a little bit of castor oil in there, and I'm going to look at either steeping maybe some herbs or flowers or sort of physic garden kind of plants in a carrot oil, or I'll use some essential oils. You know, think about what do I need to help my skin, so I'll be doing that shortly. So I hope I may have encouraged you to have a little go at making some things, or just becoming aware. I will go through perhaps my skincare routine at some point. If you think that would be of interest, let me know, because I not only use my homemade, I use some other products as well, which you might be interested in. Again, I'm not sponsored by anybody, I'm not advertising for anybody, I'm just sharing what I use and how I use it, and maybe give you a couple of names that you can follow up and see whether it would suit you as well. And that's all it's about, really, is helping others to just become aware and maybe find a quick fix. For me, this is my quick fix. That didn't take me long to throw that together. Yes, the oils individually can be quite an expensive little group of oils in some respects, but I use so little, it lasts me a long time. And I ought to work out how much that is, because I mean, you can be paying a lot of money for oil blends over the counter. And I'll work that out, and I'll see if I can work it out and put it in the description below. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and share it with somebody you might feel would benefit from it. Thank you. Bye bye.